Donald Trump held a meeting at the White House this morning that will be of particular interest to millions of workers here in southern Ontario. The U.S. president sat down with chief executives of General Motors, Ford, and Fiat Chrysler. Trump urged the so-called Big Three automakers to increase production in the U.S. and boost American employment. He has vowed to cut taxes and regulations to make it more attractive for businesses to operate in the U.S.
That want to build in the United States, they go many, many years, and then they can't get their environmental permit over something that nobody ever heard of before. And it's absolutely crazy. And I am, to a large extent, an environmentalist. I believe in it. But it's out of control. And we're going to make a very short process. And we're going to either give you your permits or we're not going to give you your permits, but you're going to know very quickly.
GM, Ford, and Fiat Chrysler have all announced recent new jobs and investments in the U.S., but they are still investing in Mexico.
Trump reiterated his commitment this morning to American jobs. The president met with the heads of three major American automakers, making his pitch for keeping manufacturing in the U.S. Paul Hunter has the details from Washington.
We will bring back our jobs.
In case you missed it, at Donald Trump's inauguration,
from this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first.
A key part of that pledge, the auto industry, which for years has been increasingly looking outside the U.S. to make its new cars and trucks. Trump wants to stop that, specifically when it comes to Mexico, threatening border taxes if need be. Today, meeting with chief executives of General Motors, Ford, and Fiat Chrysler.
I want to just thank you all for being here.
To talk about making it easier for the so-called Big Three to open new plants in America.
But to have a lot of plants from a lot of different items built in the United States.
But it's complicated. U.S. auto sales have slowed in recent years, and labor costs in the U.S., for example, are significantly higher than in Mexico. Trump today hinted he may try to ease environmental regulations in pushing for new U.S. manufacturing.
I am, to a large extent, an environmentalist. I believe in it. But it's out of control.
After the meeting, suggested the executives, so far so good.
Well, we just had a great conversation with the president, and he is very focused on policies that will grow investment and jobs here in America.
But though just last month Ford stopped building this plant in Mexico, it still plans to manufacture cars in that country. And GM says it's going ahead with a multi-billion-dollar investment there. Then again, it's early days for the Trump presidency. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
What does Buy American mean for Canada? In about 20 minutes, Renee Filipponi looks at that. She's speaking with GM plant workers and the union. What does Buy American mean for Canada? It's a question the auto industry here is trying to answer. As Renee Filipponi reports, mixed messages coming from the new Trump administration and a lack of clarity is creating real uncertainty.
From assembling automobiles to making parts, it's the largest manufacturing sector in Canada. And for GM workers at this Oshawa plant, the future is uncertain.
It worries me, yeah, because that says that you want everything back in the States. So what does that do for us?
It's just more adversity for us, which has been the norm the last 10 years or so.
Plans to renegotiate NAFTA and Trump's talk of tariffs raise obvious concerns because of how integrated the U.S. and Canadian auto industries have long been.
Adding 20% every time it crosses, which on average for an auto part is 6 or 7 times, adds a ridiculous amount of cost that nobody in this supply chain can absorb, not the suppliers, not the automakers. So it falls to the shoulder of the consumer.
The lack of clarity makes it difficult to predict impacts.
The U.S. did introduce a Buy America program in the aftermath of the 2008-9 recession, and that did have a deleterious or negative effect on the Canadian economy, in particular our manufacturing sector.
Despite concerns from some auto workers, their union believes Trump's focus will not be on Canada, but Mexico and Asia.
We really do have balanced trade with the United States. We build more cars in Canada than we sell, but the majority of the parts come from the United States.
A lot of questions weighing heavily on a big Canadian industry. as answers and clarity for now seem to be hard to come by. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, Toronto.